Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Tell Me Everything. I'm your host, Danielle Spinelli. I have Optical Dynamics with us today. And what's super fun about this episode is basically learning about a whole different avenue that I don't even know anything about. Learned a lot on this one. We were at Manifest, had a little bit of technical difficulties. So please, bless my little heart with this one because I don't know what I'm doing. As you guys know, the podcast is still kind of newer. So this is like my first adventure for recording on the go. And honestly, embarrassingly enough, I ran out of battery on my camera. I ran out of memory card space. I'm like, how did I even do that? Thought I had extra stuff. And anyways, it was honestly a nightmare. So I had to record from my phone, all this crazy stuff. We're going to get better at this together. But anyways, this episode was really great. Like I said, I learned a lot just about routing and things like that when it comes to carriers and what all they have to do for their trucks. Was super cool. But what biggest takeaway that I got from this was that the ability that they have to make your fleet be more carrier focused or driver focused. I mean, where if let's say they have a kid's birthday party that they have to go to, instead of having it depend on a dispatcher to try to remember all of this, their platform kind of does that for you. And so it kind of makes sure that they're optimizing optimized dynamics, optimizing your fleet to your drivers, or your drivers to your fleet, to your loads, so that it all makes sense. And then if you do have a brokerage division, even kicking stuff over the brokerage team. I mean, it just all kind of makes sense. It's a pretty cool platform. Anywho, let's jump in it.
Tell me everything.
Tell me everything.
Thank you so much for joining me. We're here at Manifest. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks.
So glad you came on.
Love the microphone.
I know. Isn't it cute? Okay. I'm just going to show everybody how cute. It's the thing, and then you can clip it, or you have the microphone.
Yeah, I'm
and
kind of
it's
jealous.
pink.
I have a boring one.
Yeah, I know. I was going to do an orange one, but because it kind of goes with my brand, but I was like, I feel like some guys will be like, I don't want to hold an orange mic.
Well, I'll take the pink one. But
Okay, good. So next time I know, get the color one.
Got it.
People will like it. Let's start off, introduce yourself, say a little bit about what you do, and then we'll jump in it.
Sure. So my name is Zach Schuchart. I'm head of sales for Optimal Dynamics. We are a decision automation platform helping fleet operators, both shippers and asset-based carriers, make better decisions and drive more profit.
Cool. So your elevator pitch was pristine. Let's just say that.
I'm in sales.
Right, exactly. So how long have you worked there?
About 5 years. It was
wow.
Crazy. Yeah. So I think I was employee maybe 22 or 23 of the company, and I think we're north of 80 now, which is pretty
wow.
cool. Yeah.
How have you seen the company, change since 5 years ago?
The core mission of the company hasn't changed.
That's cool.
Our Danielle Powell and his father Warren are co-founders of the company. We have deep proprietary tech that is solely focused on driving more profit for carriers.
Okay, very cool.
Yep.
So how do you do that?
Yes.
Dumb it down for me.
Yeah. So, we don't kind of stand up, wave our hands, and say AI, but our one of our co-founders still teaches at Princeton. And kind of has roots all the way back to deregulation. So in the early days of optimization, he wrote a few pieces of software, one of them being driver on load that Manhattan Associates still use today.
Okay.
And at the time, it was kind of a trade-off of a powerful optimization solution that took a long time to solve a problem, and planners and driver managers don't have a long time to make a decision.
Right.
So at the time, they were faced with, do I solve the problem with deep granularity, or do I elevate the simplicity of the problem so that the system can make a quicker decision?
Okay.
And kind of why now is we now have access to a tremendous amount of on-demand compute power that allows us to solve a massive optimization problem on a 1,000 truck network every 2 or 3 minutes.
Oh, really? That fast? That's crazy. So you mentioned AI. AI is always a buzzword. So I want to get into that too. I guess as we're at Manifest, there's a bajillion AI companies, right?
There are over 500 logos on that billboard. That is wild.
Isn't there over 7,000 people here?
It's crazy.
It's insane. There's so many people. But what's cool is you learn about all the different tech that's out there. And what's interesting is I was here last year, even from last year to now, the AI stuff is everywhere.
Yeah.
I think there's a big difference though in a company that leverages AI to enhance the product versus trying to, I guess, override people and doing things like that. I think having the AI be part of the solution and making things faster, like the 2-3 minute thing, Or what are you guys doing?
I mean, AI is simply tools within a toolbox to deploy.
Right.
So whenever you kind of just hear someone use the buzzword of AI, and we use AI, you kind of have to have them go a little bit deeper into what the decision is.
Okay.
So there are deep mathematical applications of the broader term of AI, which are machine and reinforcement learning, which work very well in the truckload space because it is our customers have customers that give them a tremendous amount of orders. We have to learn about those orders when customers are tendering the carrier's freight, and those tools, namely machine and reinforcement learning, are very good at understanding pattern recognition. So we can now start to build a probabilistic future of a carrier's network, actually forecast when freight is going to drop in their network, so we can position the assets in the most profitable way to take advantage of the most profitable freight that they can actually haul. So AI is, there's a broad spectrum of it. The current buzzword is agentic, right? So agents are a very powerful thing, but if there's no decision logic underneath the agent, it's just maybe doing something a little bit faster.
Right. Yeah, no, that makes sense. So I know you mentioned taking the information from the shipper or whatever going to the carrier. Is it where they basically send the tender over and then it flows through, or how exactly does that whole process work?
Yeah, so OD integrates into the TMS.
Okay.
So that's the demand signal, right? So we then start to learn when their customers are tendering loads into their TMS, and that could be coming from the non-asset side of the carrier or the asset side of the carrier, or it could even be coming from the demand signal, could be coming from an open source load board.
Okay.
So we integrate into all of the publicly available load boards as well as customer load boards. So the optimization engine can see internal freight. So this is freight that the carrier would have from shippers on the asset side and the brokerage side. And then also it's filling gaps and looking at load boards to understand where there might be a load that's needed to reposition a driver that we don't have in the system. So we can go out into a load board like C.H. Robinson or Echo or Arrive to find another load for the driver. So we take the demand signal, which is coming from the TMS, and then we take the capacity signal coming from an ELD. So we know that then the driver's hours of service, where they're domiciled, when they need to be home. And the third pillar of that is cost. So we have to understand what the variable cost of operating the power unit is. So every time those wheels turn, what is the cost of moving that truck? And then the decision is making the best decision for that specific carrier. We call that in the math world objective function, which means, are they worried about service? Are they worried about profit? Are they worried about getting drivers home? We can tune the solution to really behave how the customer wants it to behave.
That's interesting. It's funny nowadays, I feel like you mentioned, drivers getting home and that culture. I think a lot of carriers nowadays, because of people say we have a driver shortage, really it's a retention problem, I think. And it's where they can't hold on to their drivers because they have a culture problem. And so I think shifting that, and sometimes a dispatcher may forget that they have to go here on this day or that day or something like that. And so I guess being able to have your software kind of do that for them takes that, the good thing about it, the human mistake element out of it, I forgot you needed to do this, and kind of does that for them. I'm assuming, right? Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Am I on the right track?
You nailed it. Yeah. So, first, the driver shortage problem. We've never had a shortage of people. We've never had a shortage of drivers. We've had a shortage of drivers willing to work for what companies want to pay them, but we've never had a shortage of drivers.
Good point.
But how it works for a carrier driving driver satisfaction is that instead of relying, to your point, on a driver manager telling a driver that they're going to get them home at a certain day at a certain time, the system now knows that. So we are now making decisions, and every load or loads that we plan on that driver have the need in mind to actually get that driver home on a certain day at a certain time. And we can actually tune the solution to create a higher penalty for having that driver miss their home time. But a company might have drivers that are like, look, I'm okay being out an extra day if it means I can make more money.
Yeah.
So we can actually relax or actually incentivize the solution to be a bit more aggressive with the plans that we make for that driver, all taking into consideration and honoring safety and brakes, resets, et cetera, for the driver. But maybe planning a more profitable load that might get that driver in 12 hours later than their specific home time because that driver's okay with it.
Yeah.
But other drivers that maybe teach their kids sporting events, they need to be home Friday at noon, we can actually highly penalize the model for not getting that driver back. So then it's a more conservative plan for the driver, and it actually will start to systematically guarantee that we get the driver home and not just, hey, yeah, we'll work to get you home as soon as we can. Yeah.
So does the driver dictate that, or is it just like within the software, each like ELD connection, driver connection?
They can, but it's our customers tell us what buckets of drivers fall within what operating characteristics. So, if
they know their drivers, so they know.
Yeah. So they'll know their runners, the drivers that they're like, hey, look, they're really not. They really don't need to be home every Friday at noon. As long as we get them home sometime between Friday and Saturday, good. And then they'll know the buckets of drivers that they need to get home Friday at noon.
Yeah.
But we work with customers that run many different driver types, anywhere from local, home daily to, long OTR or team services that are out for multiple weeks.
Oh, really? That's cool. So have you had customers that had like great success stories as far as like that culture shift? And
yeah, absolutely. So I think in general, when we talk about deploying AI, one of the challenges that a lot of companies face is that there's a large change management component to automating something. Because transportation has historically been a very brute force decision.
Yeah.
That's why we have a lot of planners sitting in the seat. That's why we have a lot of driver managers, a lot of people are on operations floors.
Right.
Because it's a very messy decision.
Yeah.
We're dealing
and so many things can go wrong.
Absolutely. We're dealing with customers and drivers and nothing ever goes right.
Right.
So I think it's very important to understand that, having your organization prepared to actually go through the change management and change your organization and how it looks on the other side of deploying automation, and whether that be, true, dispatch planning automation, or even if it's, CSR automation. There's a lot of change that goes into the organization, and I think a lot of companies really need to take a step back and think about what that means to them after they hit the go live button.
Interesting. So whenever rate changes and the market shifts, how are you guys able to kind of stay ahead of that and then figure out a way that, like, making the most profit here or there, tailoring, especially if the drivers, it doesn't matter where they get sent, I guess tailoring that to the money side of it, like I want the most profit.
Yeah, so the engine is profit hungry, like natively.
Okay.
So then we'll tune it to behave how we need it to behave. So if we need to get drivers home at a specific time, if we have a never fail customer and we have to make sure that every one of those customer loads are serviced, we can actually tune the engine to behave like that. But as far as rate changing, the model, because we are directly integrated into the TMS, we actually see every tender that comes in. So as rates increase or decrease, the engine is understanding what the revenue is in the load and making a decision to maximize profitability, whatever the revenue is in that load. So, obviously the profit's going to drop if rates drop, but we do our best to try to make sure that we're putting a plan for the driver that maximizes profit, given all of the constraints that our customers have on how they operate their network.
Yeah, because especially if you're getting stuff from the load boards, really, I guess it's different, of course, with like an actual shipper freight, but off load boards, that can go all over the place depending on the market.
It can, but what's interesting is that not all revenue is good revenue. So a lot of times as humans, we start to chase rate per mile, and we're like, hey, we want to knock it out of the park with every load that we bring into the network with a $3 or $4 plus per mile load.
Yeah.
When in reality, taking a $1.80, $1.90 a mile load that lands that driver in a very valuable market in the next day for the company is a huge win and drives a tremendous amount of profit.
Yeah.
So the load boards are kind of grease that we see for the network, right? Because a network is going to have holes in it, right? Nothing's perfect.
Right.
So the more demand we have access to, the better. So if we can reposition a driver, so if we know a driver is going to be in Charleston tomorrow and they're available at 8 a.m. and we don't have a load in the system for them, we have a couple of options. We can try to get out ahead of it, which most of the time doesn't happen in a live environment because planners are just busy doing a whole lot of other things. We can wait till that driver's there and then try to figure out what we're going to do next, whether we're going to lay over the driver or we're going to call the rep at our favorite load board or our favorite brokerage operation to try to get a load, or we can use an optimization engine that sees everything and says, hey, look, you don't have to call a bunch of brokers to try to put a load on this driver. here are 3 loads on these 16 load boards that you have access to that work for this driver. Just go book one.
Well, that's interesting because going through so many, they say like even drivers, they don't like to have a billion apps on their phone. I mean, to do one thing, right? Same thing with like a load board. There's so many people who have their own individual load boards. And I love the load boards as far as like the fraud piece of things, right? Like you can have your approved carriers to only see your freight. It's not just a mass market. Unfortunately, the big load boards are having cargo theft like crazy, and it's changing everything. But so having those, as a broker especially, having those options available to carriers, but then a lot of times they don't look at those load boards. So having something that ties it all in is big.
Yeah, and it brings in kind of human bias, right? So planners have like their favorite rep that they work with. So and it's not because it's out of malice, but it would be like, hey, look, this person's just easy to work with. I know I can get a load from them when I call them. But in reality, for the network, that's not the best thing for the network.
Yeah.
So having a system that sees everything at all times is a better option because we have more demand that we can tap into.
Yeah, and then if you see, hey, out of the 3 options, one of them is my boy, go with your boy.
Yeah. Exactly.
So you kind of get a little bit of automation, but the human element can still be in there. Which
for
is,
sure.
Like I said, to me, that's my conspiracy on AI. Where I'm like, that's where I think if we go too much this way, we're going to swing back this way. So we got to find that middle path.
Yeah, I mean, the real application of AI should enable us as humans to do more valuable things in our lives or even for the companies that we work for. Mm-hmm. So in our world, what we're doing is freeing up a planner or a driver manager to focus more on revenue generating activity, like working with customers on getting more customer freight into the network, or in the driver manager scenario, working with drivers on driver satisfaction and safety.
Yeah.
So, humans are very good at solving those kinds of problems. If customers upset or customers happy, how do we win more business with this customer?
Right.
Drivers upset or our drivers are good, how do we continue to service the drivers? Computers are very bad at those decisions. They're very good at math. The majority of the transportation decision is math. So what our value prop to our customers is let the computers do what computers do very well, and that's solving the math problem. Let the humans interact on the human side, and you can really, kind of draw, kind of a connection between what we do and really the autopilot in an airplane.
Okay.
Airplanes have been able to land themselves for the better part of 4 decades. No one touches a thing. The airplane fully lands itself, taxis off the runway, and no one touched a thing. But there are still 2 pilots sitting in the front seat.
Yeah.
And that's an overly dramatic example, but it's the same thing in trucking.
No, it makes sense.
We can maximize profitability of a decision, but if a planner knows something that the system doesn't, they're going to step in and override it. Yeah. Maybe a driver called in sick, or maybe a customer, they just got off the phone with a customer and the customer's upset about something. So they're going to change what the optimal decision would be to a more conservative or to a decision that they know will satisfy the problem immediately at hand. So that's really, what should be happening when we deploy AI. It shouldn't just be, kind of Terminator comes in and takes over the world.
Right.
It really should enhance our ability to drive more value in our lives and for our companies that we work for.
Tell me everything. Tell me everything.